VoiceOver Coffee Shop, episode 68.
Welcome to the VoiceOver Coffee Shop, where we give you a glimpse into the world of the biggest voice actors in the industry over a delicious cup of coffee. And now, here's your host, voice actor Andrew Morrison.
Hi there, my name is Andrew Morrison, and welcome to the VoiceOver Coffee Shop, where we start our day with some of the finest names in voiceover. If you'd like to get to know more about me, check out my website at andrewdmorrison.com. In this episode, we have an amazing voice talent, an incredibly skilled business owner, and someone who quite frankly gives some of the best hugs in the industry, Bridget Reel. Bridget is an amazing award-winning voice actress and one of the creators of VAs for VOs, and a speaker at many different conferences on how to organize your business for true success. In this episode, we talk about utilizing business tools for efficiency, the psychology of business in voiceover, and the benefits of outsourcing and focusing more on actually voicing stuff.
So how are you doing today, Bridget?
I'm doing well, Andrew. How are you, love? I'm so glad we finally got this organized.
I know, me too. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, we've had a couple of instances, where it's like, hey, can I cancel? Can we reschedule? And then the next time you're like, can we reschedule? I'm like, yeah.
We're busy people.
We're busy. We're little busybodies.
So how do you take your coffee in the morning?
I don't. I take my matcha.
Okay, your matcha.
Let me clarify. I have recently not stopped drinking coffee. That would not be accurate because, I do love a good coffee. But I have switched over recently from coffee in the morning to a matcha latte in the morning. And then following it up, because I always have to have two of something. So I used to be a 2 coffee girl, and I've gone from full blown milk and sugar in my coffee to black to whatever. And then but I always had to have 2 because I need some caffeine. So I just recently switched over to matcha lattes, and then with my second cup, I have one of those mushroom adaptogen coffees. So instead of it. I found one I like. I've not to be fair, I've only ever tried this one, and it's from the UK. It's called Moksha, Moksha. I got it. I ordered it to my daughter's apartment and was like, "Oh, I like this." And I've heard from some people that they don't like a lot of them because they taste like mud or something like that.
I've only had one, and it tasted like mud. That's why I'm asking.
So this one that I have has decaf coffee in it. Has a little bit of decaf coffee in it, but then it's mostly it has chai, and it has turmeric, and it has cinnamon, and it has cacao, and it has a boatload of mushrooms, in it. So it's really good. I don't know. I like it. And then I have it with milk, with oat and hemp milk. Because I am, and date sugar.
Oh, okay.
And I do the same thing with my matcha. I make my matcha up, and meanwhile I've got in my little Nespresso milk frother thingy, I've got my oat and hemp milk going with my vanilla powder and date sugar, and then I mix it in there. I'm fancy.
Do you make a date sugar syrup, or do you just put the date sugar in it?
It's date syrup.
Okay.
So, but it has the crushed up dates in it. So there's a little Turkish market up the street from my house, and they sell date syrup, but it's actually got the crushed up dates in it. So you'll get clumps of dates, crushed up dates in there, which is kind of cool. But cool. Yeah, and when I like coffee, it's at the end of a meal.
Yes.
If I go out to a restaurant,
digestive, dude.
Right?
It's
amazing. We could sit here and talk. I mean, I realize this is a voiceover coffee shop, but we could talk about coffee for an hour because I do love coffee. So
yeah, me too. So how did you get started in voiceover? Because I know you've got a BA in linguistics. I do know that about you, but I don't know your actual origin story. Did that come from that, or how'd you get wrapped up in this?
Okay, so my yeah, I do have my BA in modern languages and linguistics. I've
Hmm.
studied in total, I think I've studied 13 languages.
Oh, wow.
I think, yeah, French, Russian, Spanish, Japanese, German, Latin, sign language, Chinese, Dutch, Italian. I won't say Danish really because I can say like two things in Danish. Portuguese,
I know what a Danish is, but I don't speak any.
right? I can I can say tak and I can say good day. Oh, and fun fact, the word for orange juice is appelsin.
Appleton. Huh.
Yeah, that means orange
That's
juice
neat.
in Danish.
Neat.
Kind of weird. But my overall origin story was when I was a kid, I always wanted to be the voice of a cartoon, which is kind of like, I don't know if it's Alanis Morissette ironic or what, but like I'm I've never actually done animation. I'd love to, but I've never actually done it.
Right.
I
Okay.
am, and I was always told at that time that you have to be in a major city, and I wasn't. I mean, I was in DC, but I wasn't in like LA or New York. Was a teacher, was like a Montessori teacher, was like a yoga and Pilates instructor, was a translator for a little while, like all these different things. I worked for School of Rock for a while.
Yeah.
And then I was my best friend had told me that she had started uh doing some auditions on online casting sites. And I was like, what is this? And so I looked it up and I decided that I wanted to try and pursue that dream because I didn't realize it was all online, or it was starting to really shift to online. That was a decade ago. And so my boss from School of Rock gave me my first interface, and it was a little MBox interface, and
Yeah.
he let me an AT2020,
Okay.
and he taught me, like he brought me into one of our practice rooms and was like, let me explain a little bit about audio engineering to you. And he gave me like a crash course on it, taught me Audacity, which I switched out of like as quickly as possible because like, God bless all those people who love Audacity, but not for me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
um I now I'm an audition girl.
Hmm.
And then I started to, I started with like a lot of people do, like on online casting sites. And after about a year, I had earned $100. My first job was for an ignition interlock, or as I like to say, a blow and go. And, and you may cut that part out if you want. I don't know.
No, it's staying. Go ahead.
um and then I mean, I was not having a whole lot of luck. I was getting a little bit of luck, but I was trying to figure it out. I decided I was going to try and go to, Fiverr or something like that. I was not part of the community at all. I was connected to a few people on LinkedIn. So Christina Malizia from GVAA, or one of the founders of GVAA,
Okay.
she and I were connected on LinkedIn. I had just created a Fiverr profile and I hadn't launched it yet, but I was like putting together my little store and the whole bit. And I'm on LinkedIn, and she posts this thing from Jay Cohen. He's an audiobook guy. And he had posted this, he had written this article saying, I'm no longer afraid of Fiverr. And Christina Malizia had said, like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that this person had posted this. And basically was talking about how people who are on Fiverr often get blacklisted and
Mhm.
by major advertising agencies and things like that. And so I was like, oh no, I'm about to launch my Fiverr show, like my Fiverr store rather. And I was like, what do I do? So I reached out to her going like, hey, we've never actually met, but I'm wondering if you would talk to me about this because you posted this and I'm really nervous. I'm about to launch my Fiverr store, but maybe I shouldn't. What do you think? And she, like, within probably about an hour, Christina sent me back the longest email that was like, stop, don't do that. She's like, you need to be part of the community. You need to get coaching. You need to get this. Cause I'd never had any coaching. I had a demo that a friend of mine helped me get from a producer that's like from a nobody, like it was not a, what do they call them? Demo mill kind of thing, but it just wasn't it was a professionally produced demo, but it wasn't by anybody from the voiceover community, and it
Right.
wasn't really going to work. It was kind of a mix of all different styles of voices and things like that, but not of genres or whatever. So I really didn't have any of the tools that I needed. And Christina was like, "Give me your hand, sweet child. I shall save you." And she brought me into the community and introduced me to GVAA. And I got I got connected with David Rosenthal, who was like my first mentor. And then he hooked me up with Ann Ganguza, who was my first coach. And she and I coached for a year until she did my commercial demo, which still stands the test of time 10 years later.
Fantastic.
So yeah, so that's my origin story. And from there, it just went. Here I am 10 years later, still doing this.
Fantastic. And you're really good at being resourceful too. Like, I mean,
Aw.
some people can't comprehend that it's possible to use tools to do 50 times more with half the time. I mean, people do astonishingly little. I mean, we're humans and designed to conserve energy and we're predisposed to laziness. But like,
It's
what
true.
what what are like some of the main tools that you've kind of like you do a lot of testing. So like what are some of the tools that you've like tested over the years that have kind of like helped you leverage efficiency?
Mm. Mm. Wow. Good question. Wow. I'm like super on the spot now.
Yeah.
You know, things that I had, I mean, things that I have tested. I try a little bit of everything, and I kind of find that if it sticks with me, because I have a really bad attention span. I should
Right.
probably be medicated for it, and I'm not. But like it's like
Like,
I'm
that's what I'm asking, like, what stuck with you? Like, what tools are you still using on a day-to-day basis that have kinda, like, helped you stay efficient in your business?
Kanban. Kanban keeps me afloat all the time. My Google Calendar.
What's
I
Kanban?
Kanban is Japanese project management.
Mm,
So it was designed by the what would become the one of the directors, the vice president of the Toyota company. He developed it out of World War II with the Toyota system. He went to a pick and mix in, I want to say Michigan or something like that, and he was really impressed by the way they used this sort of sticker system on their shelves to note what shelves needed to be restocked. So he was so fascinated by it that he brought it back and he implemented it into the uh, um, line, the machine line. That's not the
mhm.
word I'm looking for. Assembly
Y
line,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
assembly line, um, to kind of make them more efficient. And they found that they wasted less materials and became faster. And this was like well before Toyota was who they are now, like well before they are who they are now.
Mhm.
So he actually saved them money and helped them to make more money. So essentially, what it has developed into, because there was a software developer in the 80s or 90s or something like that who
Mhm.
used it for software development and in the business world. Essentially, bare bones of it is you take you take a piece of paper, you take a board, whatever you want, you divide it into 3 columns. You have your to do column, you have your doing column, and you have your done column. And you take all
Okay.
of the things that you have to do in a day, right? And you put them on little post-it notes or whatever. And each step, like not like big things like need to get a demo. That's not a thing.
Mm,
It's like all the steps of what goes into getting a demo, right?
right.
And you put all of those into your to-do list. And as you take action on each of them, you move it from to do to doing to done. And so it gives you physical flow to your productivity. So I use that all the time. I actually have cork boards now that I
Oh,
have.
okay.
One of my cork boards just fell, so I can actually pick it up and show you.
Yeah.
So this is my cork board, and I have pins. I had to glue this back up because it the bane of my existence. I have these little whiteboard
Mhm.
dry erase white things that I can pin these up. And so this is on one side of my desk. And as I'm doing the different tasks in my day, I move them over to done.
So
So that is
you don't use, like, an electronic one, like the one in Nimble or, like, Trello or something like that?
I do use Trello, but here's the benefit of using the physical version over something digital. Digital,
Oh,
you
I
can
love
minimize
physical
and get.
things.
Yeah, digital, you can minimize it and get it out of your face. The
Mhm.
more you have something in your face, the more likely you are to take action on it.
That's
So
true.
always remind yourself. And like I tell people all the time, like I swear anybody who's ever heard me talk for 5 seconds hears me talk about Kanban all the time. But
Mhm.
my first Kanban board was a gigantic piece of wrapping paper Like I took like this big old piece of purple wrapping paper and I divided it into 3 columns. And I took like cardstock and I made my columns and said like, on deck, doing, done. And I would take like Post-it notes and you can write everything. And the cool thing is when you're done with those Post-it notes, like when you like after the day or the week or whatever, however long, you can just let that done column fill up and you'll just feel really accomplished. But the other thing you can do is fold them up and stick them in a jar. So on those days that you feel like complete garbage about yourself and you're like, I'm no good at anything I do. I'm worthless. I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm an imposter and everybody's going to realize it. Look at that jar, open some things up and remind yourself of all the steps and all the accomplishments that you have, achieved over the time. It's a really good way to kind of like build yourself up.
Oh, absolutely. See, I've stopped looking at what I'm missing towards the long-term goal, and I started focusing on the task that I need to do today towards that being the goal.
Yes.
And so if I completed that, I completed the goal for the day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's help.
The other thing kind of in that same vein, is because I used to be a big planner person and Mark Scott and I used to like have a whole like battle over whether Clever Fox was better than Panda Planner and all this other stuff. But I even found that like I'm not using planners as often because it becomes busy work for me. And I can spend a whole lot of time writing things down. And again, close that book, it's no longer in my face. So it's like I need things that are in my face just being like, get it done, get it done. So my accountability buddy told me recently, because I was having a little bit of a, crisis of productivity, which we all do. I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. And she was like, we're going to adopt Jonathan Tilley's touch it once method, which is Jonathan says like, essentially, if you have something, you pick it up. If it's like in your hands, you just take care of it. So it's like, if you've got that email that you open up from, say, that agent that's like that audition, it's like, rather than going, I'm going to study it, I'm going to get it done. And okay, I've got this many hours to get it done. I'm going to wait and what. Nope. It's in your face. You get it done. Like if you've opened it up, like if you've got a bill that you got to pay, you pick up that envelope and like you touch it once, you get it done. Like there is no putting it off. Once it's touched your hand once, action needs to be taken on it. So
Gotcha.
And I've been doing that for the last like a little over a week now. And it's definitely got me back on track. What other things do I use? Again, Google Calendar, huge. I mean, because I between VA for VO, JMC demos, my own VO work, and just, having kids, having a life, having a husband, having 3 dogs, trying to keep it all afloat and trying to remember that I have got something scheduled. I am terrible at that. So Google Calendar, man, I will put in absolutely everything into Google Calendar because I also use my smartwatch. Smartwatch has been really helpful for me because it reminds me obviously of any appointments coming up on Google Calendar. But if I have my smartwatch on, I can put the phone away. Because I will get so distracted. If my phone's in front of me, I will like pick it up. I'll start doom scrolling or whatever. I can get, again, I need to be medicated. I'm not. So, but if my daughter messages me on WhatsApp or what have you, oh, look at that. I have a reminder that I need to be on the VO coffee shop right now.
Oh, yeah.
So I happen to like tap it and like, that's what pops up. But like if my daughter messages me or my husband messages me during the day, it's like that will pop up and I'll go, okay, that's worth when I have a second to get on there and address whatever that issue is. But it keeps me from my cell phone distraction, which I have a really bad addiction with. So
now I've never used a smartwatch in the booth. So like whenever you get a notification, it doesn't like create any interference with like your microphone or anything?
I've got it set up to be on like vibrate. And so, okay, much to I'm going to make the scandalous statement. I'm an Android girl.
I'm an Android guy.
Oh, God, I love you.
I've got a Google Pixel. I love that thing.
Oh, my husband loved his Google Pixel. And then I got him to...
Dude, Google Lens is amazing. I can take a picture of something and it will Google it for me. It's amazing. I love my Pixel.
He loved his Pixel before, and then he switched over to the Samsung with me. I've been a Samsung girl for a really long time, and then he, he's found reasons to not like it. He's an IT nerd. Like, I married an IT nerd, and so he is super bougie about all kinds of tech related things.
Mhm.
So he can always find something to something wrong with things. But yeah, so anyway, my point is, so I have the Samsung watch, and it has the vibration in the bottom here, like underneath here. So it vibrates on my skin, but it doesn't vibrate out loud, if
That's
that
cool.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So which is really nice. And then I just turn the sound off on the phone, which is currently right next to me. Um, but yeah. So it works really well. And that way it minimizes my distractions. So like it's helpful. And it keeps me pretty much on track. So 90, I'd say about 95%. What
Gotcha.
about
So
you?
what do you mean? What about me? Like, what tools do I use?
Yeah, what are your favorite tools? I'm gonna interview you right back.
Okay, yeah,
What?
no, I mean, so I do the touch it and don't stop until it's done thing too. I also like to organize my overall day. So
Yes.
I'll spend like the first 3 to 4 hours of my day doing content creation for like shorts for the voiceover coffee shop, or maybe static images for my business or promotional material. And then I'll go through and I'll see if I have any auditions for my agent that I need to get done. And then I like to spend up until maybe around noon to be admin time. So that way,
Yes.
noon and beyond, I can focus on recording as much as possible, and I don't have as much of a time constraint in like when I
Yeah, that
need to
makes
get things
sense.
recorded versus when I need to spend time with family, or I have more afternoon time instead of late night time to like
And your
wrap
voice is
up things
warmed
for
up
my
by
day.
that point too.
Yeah, exactly. I've
Yep.
had time to get my coffee in. And
Exactly.
but I mean, I've realized that the more I progress in my career, the more things that I have to say no to doing. You know what I mean? Because like the
Mm.
no muscle is just really a yes muscle to the things that matter most. And
Hmm.
so, like building my business, you start to say no to more and more little things because they're not associated with the overall goal.
Right.
So,
Right.
what are some things that you've had to say no to in the past like year that you've kind of developed that
Oh,
like weren't a part of your business, that weren't a part of where you wanted to go?
where I think, well, part of it has been I've had to say no to taking certain calls, um, particularly from like my kiddo.
Mhm.
Because I love my daughter dearly, but she will call me at any time of the day just to be like, "Hey, I'm really frustrated. It's like it's so cold outside." Like
Mhm.
it's not like usually when she's messaged me, she'll like, "Hey mom." And I'm like, "Does this matter?" And so I had to like basically tell her, like, I had to draw my line in the sand and be like, "No,
Right.
we cannot do this." Um I had to draw I've had to draw my line in the sand with um certain VA things, because I still do VA work, so
Mhm.
there's certain tasks that I do as well for other people and other teams, and I've had to be like, no, can't do this, can't do that, or just kind of like reframe it. And I would say a lot of it for me is not quite so much about saying no as it is about reframing the yes.
Right.
Under these circumstances, I cannot do it right now, or under these circumstances, I cannot address this. However, let's change the circumstances to this, and then I can address it.
Do
Um,
you, can you give me an example of that? Like what have you had to reframe into a yes? Like
I was trying to like be nice about it, because without naming names and naming groups and
no,
things
no,
like
no, no.
that,
Don't
and it's
name
just
names
like,
and groups. Name tasks. Like what were tasks or
um,
things that you had to say, like had to reframe into a yes, or just give me a concept. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a
so
specific name.
well, okay, so I will say, some things that I had to reframe, like not this year so much, but like previous years,
Mhm.
was like my video production work. So I've always done like demo videos for people, and I've
Mhm.
had like a little side business doing that for a long time. And I had I realized that it was not serving me because it was taking so much time. Like I am obsessive about things looking right and being presented right, and I want the quality to be there, and I like, and so, I won't just take someone's money and just throw something together. Like it just doesn't sit right with me. I'm a very visual person, and I like things to be just right. But I wasn't charging enough, so I had to just start telling people like, no, I can't do this for that amount. So I had to switch over and reframe that, and to be like, if I'm going to do this demo video for you, I'm going to have to, instead of doing an entire demo video for you, I'm going to have to do this by track. I charge it by the track. So if you want, one spot done, it'll cost you this much. If you want, the entire thing done, it's going to there was a little bit of a discount, like the more tracks that they got done. So if it was like a full demo video, it might be, less expensive than, doing individual tracks. But like, so I definitely had to reframe that. I've gotten very good with, people saying, hey, can we do this at this time? And I go, I can't do this right now. I know you want this done right now, but I've got the following things. Like recently I had someone come to me and say like, hey, can we do the following thing? And I'm like, no, not right now. Like I had actually somebody come to me on, what was it? It was the day before Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Somebody came to me and they were like, hey, got this. Can we handle this? And I was like, not on the day before Thanksgiving. I've got a house full of people
Right.
and I am in the middle of cooking.
Got a turkey to
However,
de-thaw, man. Like,
right, exactly. I'm like, I got a whole, and I was hosting 17 people. So I was
Ooh.
like, I can't, I got a whole lot of stuff. I'm like, however, let's revisit this on Friday. Let's, like we can do this. So again, it's reframing the perspective. It's not a solid no, but it's like a not right now, not under these circumstances. I know you want something done immediately, but I can't get that done immediately. So let's revisit this on Friday and then let's see how that goes. You know, I VA for VO, we've got little things that there's 3 of us. So we're always
Yeah.
having to, be willing to be flexible. And I think that's just kind of it. It's you got to have the no, but I think it needs to come with a bit of flexibility. Unless it's like morally, ethically completely wrong, then you go, you know.
I mean, at what point do you realize, at what point is it not flexibility, but it's perfectionism overdoing the thing?
God, you're good at these questions. Um, Shit. Um,
So at some point you have to just do the thing. And I mean, you could find a task and you could chip at it for like hours until you think it's perfect. Like especially in email
oh
marketing,
yeah.
crafting something or any
Oh
kind of
God,
marketing
yeah.
really. But like
Oh God, yeah.
at what point are like what are things where you've realized that you were over perfecting instead of doing the thing where you kind of had to shift?
Um, I think I do that a lot with VA for VO stuff.
Mhm.
Because not with like making connections and things like that, like not the actual process itself, but like we're in the process of like, we're always pushing to do like new marketing things or whatever. And we're in the process of moving our entire website over to Kajabi, and there's all these little things that have to be done. And um I found myself getting freaked out by what I didn't know. So it was like, let me learn, let me learn, let me learn, let me learn, let me
Yes.
learn. And then I was like, and then finally, like one night, and actually it was when Miranda was here, which was a few weeks ago, I was like, she was sitting next to me and I don't know what the difference was, but I was like, oh, and I just, instead of going into let me learn, like like obsessive learning mode, it was, let me just do it. Let me just try it. Let me just, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to have to reach out to somebody at Kajabi headquarters and get them to, fix up my little failure here. Like, and I didn't. That was the thing. Like I realized so I think a lot of people become afraid of succeeding, afraid of trying and actually succeeding, that they will stop themselves to avoid failure. And one thing we all know is that the best growth comes from failing.
Oh, I have
Like,
failed so many times.
I'm a big embracer of the fail, man. Like you got to
Yeah.
do it. Um,
Well, I
so
mean, statistics show to become a master of any technique, you need to do it for 100 hours. But if you break that down, that's 18 minutes a day for a year.
hmm,
That's doable.
that is doable. That is
And
very
that's
doable.
that's that's how you master any skill. And I mean, you have to have that time to master skills because I mean, especially in this industry, let's face it, there is no shortage of unskilled labor.
Well,
You know
and
what
it
I
all
mean?
boils
And that's
it's
the difference. Like you have to be skilled at what you do, and to be skilled, you have to do it.
and honestly, it all boils down to fear, and that
Yeah,
can be, what is it, like for everything a reason. Um, and what's the other version of fear? Fear is for everything a reason, or I'm gonna have to look it up. It's gonna bug me. Um, but like where you just sit there and give yourself like all these reasons of why you can't do something, why you
right.
can't, and ultimately, what is if you try something and you fail, you're still gaining. You're gaining a lesson. If you don't try something, first off, you don't fail, you don't succeed, you don't get anywhere. You're just stagnant.
Right.
Like, and that's just ridiculous. So, and you're never gonna move forward. At least
Mhm.
if you're trying and you're failing, it's a step forward. It might be a step forward and 3 steps back, but
Mhm.
hey, you learned that you took a step forward and you're not going to take that same step forward to go 3 steps back. Maybe you're going to take a different step forward in a different direction. So you just got to keep trying. And I think that's one thing that I really try to embrace now. So yeah, and it's always with new stuff.
Mhm.
It's always the fear of the unknown, right? It's always like the new thing that you're like, you know, oh my gosh, if I fail, it's gonna kill my career and everybody's gonna find out. And what? No, no. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you do have like a first chance to make a good, what is it that you have one chance to make a first impression? Or is that how the saying goes? Um,
Yeah, but what you
I'm
don't
really,
realize is how many buyers there are out there. So you've got 100 first impressions or 1,000,000 first impressions that you can make. If you made a bad first impression here, that gives you the tools on how not to make one here.
do you know who made a horrible first impression on me?
Oh,
Um,
was it me?
No, no, no. Although you came out of the box out of nowhere and you had the voiceover coffee shop, I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And like I didn't know you, and then I met you, and I was like, oh, I love him. He's so
Aw,
wonderful.
thanks.
So it was great. But no, Brad Newman, and
Okay.
Brad knows this. 2017 or 2018, we
Mhm.
were at VO Atlanta, and I knew of Brad. I think we might have been Facebook friends or something to that effect or whatever. And he comes up and I'm still getting to know people, right?
Mhm.
And he goes, and I see him and I go, oh my God, you're Brad Newman. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I know you. I think we're Facebook friends or something like that. And he was like, cool. All right. And he like walks off. And I was like, and he was probably busy at the VO Atlanta. So he was probably busy or whatever. But I was just like, ew, what a dick. He's just rude. Like he's just such a like, and he just like, because it I I don't know. It just came off super smug and I was just like, ugh. And then but it stuck with me. And I
Mhm.
remember when I was getting my it was 2016. So when I was getting my website redone, I was switching over 2017 to voice actor websites, and Karen and Joe were doing my website. And I was like, who do I have host it? Blah, 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 blah. And they were like, oh, you should check with Brad Newman, Upper Level Hosting. And I'm like, do I really have to? I hate that guy. He's so obnoxious. And they were like, what? Brad? And I was like, oh, he's the worst. Like, he's a jerk. I do not like him. He's gross. And I mean, like this one interaction, I had now grown into this, like, oh, he's so awful. And Karen's like, you must have caught him in a bad moment or something.
Mhm.
She's like, trust me, she's like, his website hosting is the best, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't know. And so come like maybe a week or so later, I get this email from Brad, and he
Mhm.
was like, I have heard through the grapevine that I have hurt your feelings, or that I had offended you at some point when we met. He was like, I genuinely do not remember, but let me just apologize if I left you like feeling less than. He was like, that was not my intention. And I was like so taken aback, because people just don't apologize. Like he's got thousands of people who use him for hosting. He doesn't need me. Like he
Yeah, and
doesn't,
then
you
he's
know what
got
I mean?
upper level CRM too. Like, yeah, he's got
Right.
a lot of tools that people use.
Yeah, like he's, so he doesn't need me, but like he was so genuinely like he found out that like I know it was Karen who probably told him, and she like, but he reached out and he was like, I heard that I did this thing. I'm so sorry. That was not my intention. I don't even remember, but I left you feeling less than, and I am so sorry. Can you please forgive me? And can we start this again? And I was like, yeah, 100%. Like, what unbelievable integrity. And he is, I just adore him. Like, I
Yeah.
think he is just a wonderful human being. But, you know, I tell really long stories.
So, like, at what point of your business did you realize you needed a virtual assistant? Because I have it broken down at the point where I will get one. Like, I have
Right.
a list of things that need to happen before I say yes, this is the time to get a virtual assistant. But what did when at what point did your business, you looked at things and were like, hey, like I need some help here?
It was actually Mark Scott. Mark Scott was the one who told me. Because I had been Jay Michael's assistant. I used to be Kayla. I was
Oh,
Kayla for
cool.
a couple of years. A lot of people, I think nowadays nobody knows that anymore, because it's been so many years that Kayla has been Jay Michael's right hand.
Mhm.
And like, but I was the hand for 2 years. Um, and then I was getting busy. So he brought on Kayla. And I think now Kayla's getting too busy for him, but that's a whole nother story. Um, but I had been Jay Michael's assistant. And I was and I had done some social media stuff for a few other VOs and whatnot. But I was starting to get really, really busy. And Mark was like, I was in Mark Scott's mastermind, and he was like, as I'm telling him all the things I was trying to get done for the next month. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get all this done. He was like, why don't you hire an assistant? And I was like, to do what? And he was like, well, to do that lead generation that you need to get done. I was like, can I do that? He was like, yes, you can hire someone. He's like, I hire somebody over in Asia. And I forget what country his virtual assistant is from. But he was like, yeah, I do. He was like, you can definitely do that. I was like, well, how do I go about doing that? And so he walked me through that. I didn't end up going on whatever site it was, and I didn't go do it. I was going to. But every time, because I kept going, I can do this. I can handle this. I can handle all the things I need to do in my business. And every month Mark was like, have you gotten an assistant yet? And I'm like, no. And then he's like, seriously, find someone. And in 2020, the end of 2019, I was like, okay, I need to get someone. And that was when my son's friend from high school posted on Facebook that he was looking to get a job in a restaurant as a busboy. He was a law student. And I was like, you need to be someone's assistant. I was like, as a
Mhm.
law student, you need to like do something with that research brain of yours. And he was like,
Right.
do you know anyone? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I do. And so I taught him everything. And that was 2019. And thank God, because in 2020 with COVID, the whole world shut down. And had he been, a busboy or dishwasher in a restaurant, he would have been ass out for work. So he was amazing to me for that. And actually, at the same time, he could not have come into my life at a better point in my life, because that was when my mom got sick. And trying to keep my business afloat, trying to keep everything going, and taking care of um my parents as my mom went through her cancer battle was a lot. So he was like behind the we had weekly meetings, and he was like behind the scenes just doing stuff for me. Like he was setting up my CRM, and Mark was wonderful and was like allowed me to give him access to the Nimble class because he was
Yeah.
my assistant. And so he learned all that, and then he was started doing like email marketing for me and whatnot, and he just kept me motivated. Like as we had these weekly meetings, he was like, yeah, go. He's like, I'll handle this, you handle this, I'll handle this. So like we just became this magic team. And then he left me a year later.
So at what point did you start VA for VO? Like what was like the origin of that like new business?
So when Lucas, so when I had Lucas as my assistant,
Mm.
um, because I had hired an assistant and because I had been an assistant, um, Mark had me on the podcast and said, um, it was basically, it was a virtual assistant, podcast. And I could speak from both sides of the coin,
Yeah.
which was kind of unique. And then afterwards, Mark was like, so when are you going to put together a virtual assistant business? And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I do not have time to add one more thing to my plate right now. He was like, yes, you do. He's like, you need to do this. And I was like, "Eh." And at the same time, because Lucas was no longer my assistant, I had created with Lynn a course on outsourcing, because
Yeah.
Lynn was my audio editor and she's also been my VO bestie for years. And so we created this course about outsourcing to be able to present at VO Atlanta. And at the time, Miranda was my assistant.
Okay.
And so in that we had like Lucas, we had Miranda, like we had J. Michael, we had Mark Scott. I think those were the only 4 people we had that we had interviewed in that course. So there's like little video snippets of them like talking about like, because we use like J. Michael and Mark as interviews for like the VO side of it. And then from
Right.
the VA side, we had Lucas and Miranda in there. And Miranda, because she was my assistant, was getting hit up by people all the time. Like, how do I become an assistant? How do I do that?
Yeah.
Lynn and I started, like, Mark was still hounding me from behind. Lynn was like, well, should we do this? And I was like, maybe. And then Miranda came to me and she goes, I was thinking about creating a course on how to become a VA because I get hit up all the time from people. She's like, what do you think? And I was like, and I talked to Lynn and I was like, should we just like team up with Miranda and like create this? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So we did. And here we are. And then after we started VA for VO, Miranda stopped being my assistant because I just kind of felt like it was a conflict of interest. And, I honestly, like, I couldn't afford her anymore anyway. So she's too damn good. But yeah, so that's how VA for VO was born. And then in all of it, because Lynn and Miranda and I had all, been hit up by people asking us questions, that's where we were like, okay, we can't just make a connection business. We can't just be, voice over Tinder.
Right.
We have to like teach people how to do things. So
Yeah.
that's why we came up with the whole suite of courses and all that kind of stuff. So
Gotcha. Okay.
and then you joined us.
I did. I get so much value from being a virtual assistant because I love marketing. I really love
Good at
marketing.
it.
It's so
You're
much
good
fun.
at it.
Because I mean, I don't look at it as a list of tasks. I look at it as a hunt towards my next opportunity. And I
Yeah.
love being able to take other businesses and try to find them opportunities.
Yeah. I get
Yeah.
that.
And it works for me because it allows me to do A/B testing because I'm a virtual assistant for 2 voiceover artists. So I can take 2 different emails and say they're really, really good emails. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
going to craft them and I'm going to build a strategy for both of them. But it allows me to say, okay, this strategy is working a little bit more. So let me take a piece of that and tweak it into each of the businesses. Or it's beautiful. I love it.
You're good at it. People love you.
Thank you. So if you could go back to before you started in voiceover and like write a letter to yourself, what would you tell your past self?
Ooh. Ooh. What would I tell myself?
Hmm.
Ah. Well, first and foremost, now is this assuming that my future self will become a VO?
No, yeah, like your future self did become a VO. You're you.
Okay.
Like this is
Okay.
actually
All right.
actual time travel here. Like
Okay, so we're like,
yeah.
okay, it's not like
No, it's
going
not.
back in time and like if you could change anything kind of letter.
No,
Like, okay, no.
and so I asked that in all of the episodes of my show, but the main reason I asked that is because whenever I hear somebody ask, what would you tell other voiceover artists in your position? They always give this hypothetical that's not necessarily practical. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And so I want to know what's actually going through your brain, what you would actually do if you were to look at yourself as someone who is just getting into voiceover. Like, how would you help yourself to grow, whether it's motivation or a tactic or any number of
yeah.
those things?
Um, I would definitely tell myself like estimated taxes. Pay estimated taxes. Do not try to pay your taxes at the end of the year. Because I did that as soon as
No,
I
I
started.
do it quarterly. I always do it
Oh dear
quarterly. Oh,
God.
it saves me so much headache.
I so I mean when I hit when I started hitting the six-figure mark, I did not realize. I mean, I was very fortunate for a while that like I was below that six-figure mark, and between my husband's uh income and my income, like the end of the year wasn't too bad. It hurt a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. I hit six figures, and for 2 years I didn't pay estimated taxes. I'm still making up for it. I started paying estimated taxes this year. So the number one thing I would tell myself is, for the love of God, child, pay estimated taxes.
Mhm.
They are your friends. Quarterlies are your friends.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I would tell myself is like, actually, like it's kind of tough because I mean, other than changing the quarterly taxes, I'm a firm believer that every single step that I've taken, every single mistake that I've made, every screw up, every learning thing, every place that I've gone, like it all led me to here. It all led me to
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah.
So I guess part of it would just be like trust yourself, trust the process, make time for your health, like, because that's as I am pushing 50, I'll be turning 50 next year. Like little things are just creeping up. So, make time for health, um, and also just sort of just trust myself. Like it's all gonna be okay. Be willing to like to be silly. Don't be so I I get I get in my own head about getting up on a mic and being really super creative. Like sometimes I feel like I hold myself back from taking risks. I say that comparing myself to other people that I see get up on the mic and they like just
What are
rock
you
it. Like
talking about? I've heard you make a Nintendo commercial sound sexy. Like, what are you talking about?
I okay, I'll say like I'll say for sure it's the like the improv kind of thing, like those
Yeah.
like super creative choices. Now, I was a theater kid growing up, and I feel
Mhm.
like throughout the process like I've sort of lost that because I think what I'm really known for is the business side of things, right? Like I'm known like in the VO industry as being like, somebody who's people ask questions to on the business, and outsourcing and all the technical aspects. And so I think sometimes when that comes into play that like you just forget to, you know, take those risks and be brave and be like and forget yourself in the creative process. Like get out of your head, shake it off. Like, you know, and don't be afraid of making a fool of yourself. Don't be afraid to, be out there and be bold and be creative and be wild and be free. Like, I think that's those are all things I would remind myself, like play like you used to. Play a lot, play hard, play often, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind
Fantastic.
of what did you tell yourself? Has
I don't
anybody
know.
asked you that?
No, and I honestly don't know.
Oh, come
I
on.
I would embrace discomfort.
Mm.
I have found one of the biggest things that was stopping me for a long time was finding discomfort in tasks, which is something we often do. Like if we have a long list of people that we need to go email, I might not want to feel like emailing that day. And I also might not feel like doing my dishes, but I'm going to go do my dishes and tell myself that it's a productive thing because I'm taking one discomfort over the other. And
Right.
so once I was able to figure out, okay, why am I discomfortable about that and embrace it and look at it as the overall long-term goal, then I was able to be more productive in my business. So, I mean, there are creative aspects, there are technical aspects. I could give myself a list of resources, but figuring out how to dissect discomfort and also business anxiety, those
Yeah.
two things. Because I found that when I was anxious in my business, it was because I had too many choices. I had like too many things to do, or I didn't know which one was going to take me to the overall goal. And when I had depression in my business, it was because I didn't have enough choices. I had that helplessness of like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So I would tell myself like those little mental tricks that have helped me grow and
Yeah.
be more effective and break down why I'm feeling certain ways so I could focus on being more creative and being more efficient in my business.
Yeah. That's I absolutely love that. You have told me that before, the
Mhm,
difference between what is business depression versus what is business anxiety, and it
mhm.
is it's
It
game changing.
helps
Like that.
so much.
Right. Like it clarifies. And I don't know, I guess I'm one of those people. It's like I'm not big on like having a label necessarily on myself. Like I'm not one of those
Mhm.
people who like glorifies like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, like I try not to anyway. Maybe I do. I don't know, but I try not to. Um, but I like to be able to identify things like, okay,
Right.
this is this. And because if I can identify it, then I can come up with a strategy around it.
Right.
So
Because
when you told me like the difference between like depression in business versus anxiety in business, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And it just gave me like a pathway, like it
Mhm.
just gave me like, okay, this is what you're dealing with. And it's funny because I started identifying it in other people
Yeah.
and other things that I was seeing. I was like, ah,
Because I've been doing a lot more studying on psychology and the actual rules of life, I guess you could say, because we spend a lot of time trying to be innovative or trying to do a new thing, but like a lot of times it's not being innovative and it's just us trying to make excuses for why we're not doing the things we know we should be doing. So I
yep.
like to look at the psychology and the statistics around the business side of what I'm doing and like the mental side of what I'm doing. So that way I can focus more of my energy on being creative. That's where I
Yes.
want to be innovative, is in my creativity.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's because you do like if you can just be like calm, confident, and just allow to flow in the business side of things, then then it frees up space on the play side, on the creativity side, and I agree with that.
I don't like to spend mental energy on wondering what to do next.
No. And I will say, like, when I kind of fell into this October, November were well, I guess like September, October, the beginning of November were like kind of a little wonky space for me because I was doing a lot of traveling. I was doing a lot of things on my plate. And I fell off of some really good habits that I have. And then when I noticed it affecting my business, I got really in my head about it. And the minute I was able to identify that and just
Mhm.
go, okay, then I was able to kind of like clear the space and go, here's your options of what you can do. And here's the options of the things that
Right.
you need to do. And here, like,
Mhm.
so which one are you going to tackle? And since I've been doing that, like, it's just, it's like a big breath of fresh air. I am a
Mhm.
big believer, um, in minding your stress levels, being very
Yes.
like taking active steps towards your stress levels because I'm not a person I am a bit of a pressure cooker. Like
Mhm.
I'm known to put things off to the last second on, on things. But I like um where was my brain going with this?
I had to
Shit.
figure out the difference between what was me using stress as an excuse and what was actually me being overwhelmed. And when I was
Yes.
overwhelmed, I had to figure out how to organize it, not so that I do
Yes.
less, but so that I do more efficiently. And so I'm
Well,
less
that's
stressed about it.
exactly. And I think that's where I was going with it, was like, even though I pressure cook, I having stress on your mind and your body takes its toll. It really does. And I am noticing that, especially now as I'm, getting to that, the tender side of middle age, is like, that all the effects it has on, your physical body, your emotional state, and your overall productivity. So like,
Mhm.
you're right. Like there's nothing wrong with a little challenge and a little fire in the belly,
Yeah. No, you still need
but
to do the things like, yes.
right, like that's if it's going to keep you motivated. I feel like motivation and inspiration and fire is great, and drive, like that's really good to have. What's not really good to have is stress and overwhelm and anxiety. Like, and that's what I am actively taking steps towards reducing in my life.
And that's what I love about all of the services that you provide, whether it be VA for VO or the classes that you teach. It's always been
Oh.
focused around everybody has a physical resource. But one of the biggest detriments to any business, voiceover or otherwise, is not knowing how to manage stress and organize yourself. It is one of the biggest detriments, but people don't focus as much on the mental because it's not material. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
you have taken, hey, this has been a huge detriment in my business. Here's how I can help you avoid that. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
been powerful.
Aw, thanks.
And speaking of,
I definitely like to help people. Well, one, I like to help people realize you're not alone. It's natural, and like you're not the only
right.
person who's dealing with it. If I can give you a little bit of guidance from something I've learned, if it's going to help you a little bit, fabulous. You were about to say, sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, if people want to delegate their stress, where can they find a virtual assistant for their VO business?
VA for VO.com, VA for VO.com, or email us at office@VA for VO.com. And just in case you screw it up, if you type in VO for VA.com, you'll still get to us, because I bought out all of the URLs so that people
Oh, I
couldn't
did that.
screw it
I
up.
got VO coffee shop, the voiceover coffee shop. Yeah, I did the same thing because I had that same
Uh-huh.
problem.
And I do it like with like all the various ways people screw up my name, I mean, and funny, when Mark had me on his podcast, he mentioned something about VA for VO being voice over Tinder, and he was like, you should buy that. And I was like, I will. And so I did. I bought voice over Tinder, I bought VO Tinder, I bought like a whole bunch of like, dating app kind of things.
That's awesome.
And I turned voice over Tinder into a PDF. For like, if you go to voice over Tinder, it goes to a PDF that gives you like all these things that you can outsource in your business, and some really good apps that you can get too. So, it works.
Dude, that brings me to a whole new business idea because there are so many resources in the voiceover industry. What if we created an actual VO tender where you're like, here's what I need: demos, I need a virtual assistant, I need this and this, and then it directs them to like, here are people that offer that resource. Kind of like
Well,
what
that's what VA for VO does.
well, no. But I'm talking outside of VA for VO. So like, hey, if you need like a demo, then
Right.
what kind of demo do you need? Okay, here are people that produce that kind of demo. You need a
Yeah.
coach. What kind of coaching do you want to focus on? Here are coaches that are vetted that provide that kind of service. That would be
Mm,
cool.
that
Like an
would be cool.
actual like tender for like all voiceover, not just virtual assistant related stuff, but anything within the business. That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah. That would be
hey,
cool.
I want to start going to conferences. Okay, where are you located? Here are the conferences that happen around your area, and here's the times that they happen. That would be neat. Kind of like
That would be neat.
What Vorg does, but digital.
But digital. Well, Vork has a
Well,
digital
Vorg, they
version.
have a digital one, but it's more of a yellow pages. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in less of a VO
I think
tender.
there are
Like,
I think there are certain things, because like I think there are certain services that have that.
are they?
I think there are certain websites that are like, I don't know. It would be worth looking into, wouldn't it?
It would be.
You shouldn't put this.
Sorry, we should. Okay, yeah. Well,
You should cut this part out of the podcast because we don't want anybody stealing our ideas. I'm just saying. I'm throwing that out there.
And where can people find Bridget Rial and her demos and all of her amazing work?
but not the Nintendo take. I wish I had that recorded. That was much fun to do. You have that recorded?
Yes, I recorded that whole class.
Oh, I need it.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Amazing. So people can find me at Brigid, BRIGID, Real, REALE, at realvoices.com. Or just go to my website, realvoices.com. So there's only 2 Bridget Reals that I know of in the world, and one is a graphic designer and one is me. So
fantastic. Well,
but we spell it the same way.
Thanks for coming on the show. This has been magic and amazing.
This has been so much fun hanging out with you. I love you so much. This has been a blast hanging out with you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for just, you ask amazing questions.
Thanks.
Like really amazing questions. And that's why I had to ask some of them back to you because, they're solid, man. You're good at this.
I really hope you enjoyed this incredibly insightful episode, and I hope you got as much of this eye-opening treasure trove of practical advice as I did. If you'd like to join the VA for VO organization, you can visit vaforvo.com. And if you'd like to hear some of Bridget's amazing work, you can visit her site at realvoices.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to the VoiceOver Coffee Shop. For more information on guests, new episodes, and more, be sure to visit vocoffeeshop.com and our YouTube channel or your favorite podcast streaming platform. You know you want to.